You okay?
If you look closely, you'll find something tragic was happening.
This is from the trailer for the film Origin, which arrives in Toronto theaters today. A movie that explores racism, discrimination, hate, and loss through the eyes of author Isabel Wilkerson. She wrote the book on which this film is based. The debut in theaters already shaking things up for awards season. So we'll bring the two of those together because Eli's here for his Friday film review, and great to see you on all of this. Ava DuVernay, the director of all of this, you're going to tell us about her for anyone who isn't familiar with her work, because you actually interviewed her and talked about this film Origin.
I had a wonderful conversation when she was here to present the film. And she is like a phenomenon, like in Hollywood. Certainly one of the most successful Black working directors today in Hollywood. She's an activist, she is a producer, she is a director, she is best pals with Oprah Winfrey. She is just kind of a rabble-rouser. But when I sat down to chat with her, I wondered, like, did you always know that you were going to be behind the camera? Did you always know this was your life? And she had a sense, but as a little girl growing up in Compton, Los Angeles, there was something missing. Take a look.
Now, I was talking to my friend J.J. Abrams or Mr. Spielberg, and at that age, they had cameras. So they were telling their stories with cameras. But I didn't have cameras. I didn't even think about that. I told my stories with Barbies. That's why it's so meaningful that I have a Barbie of my likeness, because my sisters and I would make full day-long stories where my mother would have to say, stop playing the Barbies. Dialogue, little houses. They were living life.
She was a filmmaker, but she was working in plastic. I love that. And if you heard that, she has now a doll of her own. I mean, what a full circle moment. There is an Ava DuVernay Barbie doll, which was part of the line of sheroes, of like inspiring women that they made into dolls. Because why is Ava DuVernay inspiring? Because she's Oscar nominated with her amazing film Selma. She broke box office records with A Wrinkle in Time. So she's done all these things. But then, a couple of years ago, she reads this book, the one that you mentioned, Cast and the Origin of Our Discontent, from Isabel Wilkerson. And there it is. And this is a book that connects the dots between what happened in the American South in the 1930s, what happened in Germany in the 1940s, and even in India. And as you can tell, it made an impact.
It was a mind blower for me, and I want more people to know about that. How are we connected to Nazi Germany? How are we connected to the caste system in India and other systems where folks are put on a scale of human dignity? And how does that fit into what we're experiencing right now?
So DuVernay knows she wants to do something with this, but what? Like, it's such a giant issue, right? How do you put your arms around it? And she's talking with Wilkerson on Zoom, getting to know this woman, getting to know her life. And this is where she has this really interesting idea. Make Isabel, the character in the film, as she's going on this journey, as she's teasing out the implications of this thesis. And that's how this feature film version of Origin is born.
Which touches on, as you said, all of this. I mean, the global scope of the issues of racism and discrimination, so sweeping. How does, where do you even start?
Trayvon Martin. So we go back to 2012, this young Black man just trying to get home, stopped and shot by George Zimmerman. And so in the film, we see there's a magazine publisher, and he wants Isabel Wilkerson to dig into this. He gives her the 911 calls to listen to. Anjani Ellis-Taylor, remarkable actor. She plays Isabel. You see her there. And as you'll see shortly, she has a lot of questions after listening to those tapes.
Like, why does a Latino man deputize himself to stalk a Black boy to protect an all-white community? What is that?
The racist bias I want you to explore, excavate for the readers.
We call everything racism. What does it even mean anymore? It's the default.
And I think this is why that book resonated so strongly with DuVernay, because you look at Wilkerson, you look at DuVernay, both of them have spent much of their life investigating the consequences of racism. And it's not enough now just to say it's racism. They want more. They want answers. They want, like, where does this behavior, where do these patterns come from? They're looking at India. They're looking at Germany. They're looking at parts of history. So that is part of the film. And we follow Isabel as she goes globe-trotting, talking to experts, experts, going into libraries, going to Berlin, pulling back the pages of history. But there's another part of this film.
Okay.
And that is what's happening with Isabel herself. That is about the story of meeting this handsome man who walks across the street one day. His name is Brett. He becomes her husband, played by John Berthal. That is about what's happening with her mother, who is aging. And so there's this whole personal dimension to the film. Take a look.
It's Brett.
I'm Isabel.
Yeah, I know.
Most relationships end. Friendships, romances, they break. You okay?
She is not okay. And so as she's circumventing the globe, as she's teasing out what she calls the pillars of this thesis, trying to get her arms around this massive issue, she is also navigating the landscape of her loss. And that is what makes this unlike anything I've ever seen.
Really?
Oh.
It's heavy, it seems like, as she weaves all of this together, and then the personal as well. Does it work? You see, unlike anything you've seen.
It shouldn't. I mean, I think as someone who's seen so many things, that's what is so exciting for me, is that Ava DuVernay has taken everything she's made, the adventure films, the historic films, the documentaries, and put all those tools that she had in her toolbox into this movie. And I think everything led up to this movie, which she shot in 3 countries in 37 days, working on an independent budget. And the through line, because it is so massive, it is so macro, the micro is Wilkerson's own struggle. Not writing the book, but carrying her burden, working through her grief. And I think what DuVernay realized in making this is that the consequences of racism, the consequences of these systems, like the caste system in India, you see that man there who's one of the Dalits, the untouchables. If we don't acknowledge that, it's like we're not acknowledging a death. And so there she is, as Isabel is struggling with her own grief, her own loss. It becomes this conduit which matches this investigation that she's mounting. And it's not like a dry academic dissertation. It's these remarkably powerful portraits. It's a young little black boy told to sit outside the swimming pool because if he touches the water, they say it will be polluted. It's a German and Jewish couple running for their lives in Nazi Germany. It's her at a family cookout with a plate of barbecue, trying to explain to her sister the caste system in India. It's all of those things and more, and that's why I think this is just the most remarkable thing DuVernay has ever made.
And why perhaps it's generating buzz for the Oscar nominations we're going to get next week. Let's take a quick pause and see what you decided in terms of the star number here.
Yeah.
Aw,
I mean,
5.
I think it's a monumental achievement. I think it's the best thing she's ever done. And I really hope it does shake up the awards season conversation.